Alright guys, so today diving a little bit deeper into the mechanics of a good adjustment, kind of what it should or should not feel like, and if you really need to go and get your glasses adjusted, or if maybe it's just something in your head, because that happens sometimes too. That's another story. I have some fun stories about that one, but we won't get into that today. Let's focus on just the mechanics and physics of a good adjustment and what to look for in that. Now, for starters, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor and like and subscribe down below. That helps to support the channel, keeps me here, keeps it fun. Well, I have fun when the subscriber numbers go up. I don't know, I still have a little party in my head every time I get a new one. It's weird, whatever, leave me alone, but we have fun here. Most importantly, we go over kind of the needs of glasses wearers, different frame fit, parameters, all sorts of fun little tweaks on how to adjust the frames, as well as occasionally we review some really cool things that you normally might not get to get your hands on. It's all exclusive and fun, and I love it. But anyways, what I really wanted to focus on today was more of the balance of a frame. Basically, what makes an adjustment good or bad. Now, I've done a lot of different videos on single points of adjustment so far, like when your glasses are level or unlevel, or close to one cheek or one side or the other, constantly slipping down, all of these sorts of different pieces of the puzzle. But there's one greater thing that has to be kept in mind no matter what individual adjustment is done, and that's why professionals like me make this a lot easier. Now, obviously, with COVID and all sorts of weird stuff going on this past year, it's not always been reasonable to get to somebody to take care of that adjustment for you. When you can, it's definitely better, because there's a lot of little pieces we keep in mind that you might not even know really exist, and that's what we're going to get into in this one. The overall picture, it matters how the frame actually sits on the face and how all the little different puzzle pieces interact with one another to actually create the balance of the frame. And this is different based on the way the frame is made. Some already take balance into mind, and that's one reason I love my Lightbox so much. They're already ergonomically balanced from the factory to support a pretty wide range of prescriptions and have a nice balance and fit and feel to begin with, which definitely helps with that initial impression. When you put it on, it just kind of feels good, which is always a lovely starting point. And yeah, that's another key, by the way. Any frame you put on and it just feels good out of the box, that's a good place to start, because we can adjust anything to fit and feel good. But if it feels good before we do any fitting, that's even better. Now, as far as the actual balance, I mentioned that because that is a very key factor to keep in mind. As we make the different adjustments, say it's loose behind the ears, we tighten it up back there. Well, if you don't do that just right, you can actually make the balance of the frame more forward. Now, that's going to be two things that are really bad. First of all, it's going to cause the frame to actually slip more than it did before it was tighter behind the ears, if it doesn't actually get so tight that it hurts back there. But the second thing is that you're moving the balance of the frame towards the front, and that, aside from causing it to slip down, is more pressure on the nose. Now, that's not huge for everybody. More moderate prescriptions, especially with lighter weight lenses, you're not going to notice and feel that quite as much as, say, if you were a -8 or a +5 or anything beyond those numbers, especially, particularly with glass lenses where you get a couple more grams of weight there to start with, but the optics are so beautiful. But it's important to keep in mind. So aside from the balance point of the frame, it really changes how the prescription actually works in the frame. So more moderate prescriptions, it's not going to be a big deal, but as you make different adjustments to either raise, lower, adjust the amount of tilt in the frame, which, by the way, if you're trying to fix unlevel glasses, you can throw off the tilt of the front of the frame. That's what we call panstopic tilt. You'll see this one here, this is going to be straight, but these are not straight. You've got a little bit of tilt to them there. If you adjust one ear down or up the wrong direction, you're changing the amount of tilt in the frame. So say it's intended to fit like this, which is about 10 degrees of panstopic tilt, and say one of your ears is on level, like say maybe this one is down, and then you decide to bring this guy down to level it, well, now you've got 12 or 13 degrees of tilt. For, really mild prescriptions, it's not going to be a noticeable difference. And even as you get into some stronger prescriptions, it's not going to be, oh my God, things are suddenly awful. But it's not going to feel as good as if it was properly adjusted for the prescription parameters. And especially with compensated lenses, every little tweak we make kind of throws off the whole algorithm. So like the most advanced lenses that we're going to use, I'm going to kind of talk about this in the other progressive video, is the whole lens surface is calculated out based on where your pupil is in the lenses, where you're looking through most of the time, and then based on the parameters of the frame and the fit from there really determines how all that works. So first of all, the frame should be fit, so we know what those parameters are to start with. But then if you go mucking with it and you mess things up, then you're kind of taking away the whole visual experience of a really well-fit premium lens design. Whether it's single vision or progressive, doesn't matter, but all of the freeform compensated designs are going to take all of these parameters into account. If the parameters are not right, then the vision is not what it could be. Now, again, it's not going to be one of those, oh, this is terrible, unless you have a really strong prescription and those compensated factors, or, there's something really weird with the frame, like say it's a pair of sports sunglasses where you've got a high wrap to the frame. Then some little things can definitely start to add up quickly. You can start getting weird vision off to the side. You can start getting all kinds of weird stuff going on. And trust me, guys, nobody likes weird things going on in their vision. They don't like little things squirming over here as they move their head. And nobody likes things just not being crisp and feeling weird. Like it just makes you feel like you have a headache or dizzy all day long. I can promise you there is not a single person that has put on a pair of glasses and went, these make me dizzy. I love it. I've never had that happen. 12 years, it's never happened yet. Now somebody's going to come in and do that today just because I said that. And I will put it in the comments if they do, and we will all laugh about it for the rest of eternity, because that's how that goes. Now, back onto this. So the whole kind of the point of this video, I want you to understand there's a lot more that goes into an adjustment. It's not just, oh, they're unlevel, let's fix that unlevel and that's the end of it. It kind of is to a degree, especially with the more basic lens designs out there. You don't have as many factors to keep in mind. More moderate prescriptions, it's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, it's just about really getting that comfort and maximizing the optics of the lens. And that means keeping all of those little parameters in mind. We can actually tweak the lens a little bit through adjustment to sometimes actually optimize the vision further. And that is a really fun trick to keep in mind. So, some of the milder astigmatisms we don't quite pick up on during the refraction or the exam, things like that, you can actually add some astigmatism correction through the lenses. And that comes down to the amount of wrap or the amount of tilt in the lenses. It just kind of does its thing, because that's where you're going to do some cylinder power, and it gets fun. And that's why compensated lenses are important, is because they take that tilt into mind. They counteract that cylinder that's been induced and create a more comfortable and more accurate field of vision across the lens, especially in stronger prescriptions. It makes a bigger difference. So now you've got the balance, you've got the lens power, and that's still just a little tiny snippet of the puzzle of things that have to be balanced and kept in mind as things are fit. Because on top of that, you've got weird facial features sometimes that are more sensitive. So as we get older, the skin on the bridge gets a little bit thinner, so every little bit of balance you put on the front of the frame is going to make that more irritating, if it's not already too irritating. Raising and lowering the front on nose pads is going to shift the balance of the entire frame pretty dramatically, and sometimes you just have to do that and deal with it. Preferably you don't. Hopefully everything's been adjusted before that point. But there's just a lot to keep in mind there. It's as you tweak one thing, something else changes. You can very rarely go in and do one small adjustment. As I mentioned earlier, even if it's just loose behind the ear, And actually, I do need to tweak these a little bit. I grabbed the wrong frame. Anyway, you bend this down more so it starts behind the ear more. Well, if that's off just a little bit, it's either going to hurt or, again, push the balance of the frame forward or make them unlevel even. So if you tighten that up behind the ear, then you can raise that up, which, again, it's all about balancing. So if that's brought up, then you need to bring that back up to bring this back down. And you can see how things snowball pretty quickly into needing a whole mess of adjustments. Now, most of those videos do a pretty good job of giving you a good idea as far as just basic adjustments, pretty minor stuff. And, you know, again, you're not going to destroy your vision doing these things. You're certainly not going to give yourself a migraine unless you really, really screw up or have a very, very, very strong prescription. And what I mean by a very strong prescription is not that you're a -1/2. I'm sorry that you can't read the road signs 200 feet away with your glasses off, but you're still okay, I promise. But I'm talking more like the -6 and above, the +3 and above, right where, you know, millimeters make a difference. So you take that 5 diopters I keep throwing around like it's some little snowball number, because it is. At 5 diopters of power, every millimeter of movement changes the power by 0.05 and induces more prism. So you can see that adds up quickly. You get 0.05, 0.5, sorry. It's 0.5, not 0.05. So you move that 3 millimeters, now you've got an extra diopter of half of prism in the wrong direction. That will absolutely give you a migraine for the day. Seen it happen. It does happen. You don't want to give yourself that migraine, I promise. Especially if you're one of those sensitive people. They really tweaking the prescription matters anyways. And here's another fun one. If your glasses are loose and slipping down and they're not adjusted for it, so the same thing. Remember that 5 diopter power and 3 millimeters I mentioned a second ago, changing it by a diopter and a half? Well, guess what? When you move these out, the same thing happens. In that case, you're losing power. So say you're a -5, now you're a -4.5. I can't even keep up with myself now. I need more coffee. I need to go get my coffee. We're about 12 minutes in this, so if I haven't lost you yet, I'm impressed. You are my best friend, because I don't know that many people can stand this kind of thing for this long, but there you go. So if you're still here, you have my kudos, and you deserve it. But we are done for today. I'm going to drop it off here. We might pick this back up later and have some fun with it. But for now, I think that gives us a pretty good idea of why it's not always a good idea to go mucking with all these little things, but it is definitely important to have a pair of glasses that's adjusted and sitting in the right place. So it does matter. And even if the glasses are a little bit out of whack, sitting more central to the eyes where they belong matters more. So there you go. That's my spiel on that. If this helped you out, gave you a little bit more information, maybe a little bit of inspiration to get into this kind of stuff all the time, I love it. Let me know in the comments down below. We'll definitely have a little conversation. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this.